Imagine writing a check for like $60,000 to build this totally custom online storefront, right? Only to find out it runs slower and converts fewer customers than some generic template you could have just bought for 50 bucks.
Yeah, and it happens every single day, which is wild. It's an industry where the architecture is, entirely invisible. And that makes it just a terrifying financial landscape for a lot of business owners.
Oh, absolutely. You're just staring at a screen, clicking a buy now button, and you have absolutely no idea if the code making that button function cost $50 or, $50,000.
Right. You just see the button. You don't see the plumbing behind it.
Exactly. Which brings us to our mission for this deep dive. Today, we're looking at a comprehensive guide titled Custom Shopify Development, Types, Stack, and How to Scope. And, whether you're launching a side hustle, managing some massive e-commerce empire, or you're just endlessly curious about the invisible machinery behind your online shopping carts, we're going to demystify the e-commerce tech stack for you.
Because we really want to separate the genuine technological necessities from the buzzwords, the overpriced agencies, and just the general hype.
Yeah, because Shopify gives you this incredibly powerful drag-and-drop foundation.
It does. I mean, it handles the servers, the security, the checkout routing, but eventually you hit the limit of those built-in tools.
Right, and the question is how you push past those limits without basically lighting your entire budget on fire. So, okay, let's unpack this, because before we even talk about how to write a single line of custom code, the source material hits us with a really strong philosophical stance.
Yeah, it really does.
It essentially says, just because you have the budget to build something from scratch does not mean you should.
Which is, honestly, it might be the hardest lesson in software development. The text points out that the very best developers, like the ones you actually want to hire, will actively try to talk you out of giving them money.
Wait, really? They'll just turn away the work.
Yeah, because if a $20 a month App Store solution can replace a $5,000 custom build, a reputable developer is going to tell you to just go buy the app.
I mean, considering there are over 13,000 apps available for Shopify right now, chances are someone has already solved your problem.
Exactly. You want a loyalty program, there's an app.
Automated returns, there's an app.
Right. Which leads to this framework the source outlines, the 80-20 rule of custom development. And the math here is very specific.
Let's hear it.
So if your store is making under $500,000 in annual revenue, you should be using off-the-shelf apps for about 80% of your functionality.
Okay.
You save your investment capital for the remaining 20%, the features that create, true competitive differentiation.
So we're talking about highly unique product customization experiences, or maybe like deep integrations with a specific warehouse system that no generic app could possibly handle.
Precisely. You pay for utility and differentiation, not to just reinvent the wheel. The analogy I like to use is you don't need to commission a bespoke, hand-tailored suit to paint your living room.
Right, that would be ridiculous.
Yeah, the off-the-rack overalls do the exact same thing. Probably better, and you don't care if they get dirty.
But let me push back on that for a second, because stringing together dozens of $20 monthly apps sounds like a logistical nightmare.
Oh, it can be.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, at what point does subscription fatigue set in? Eventually, paying for 30 different apps month after month has to become a bigger financial drain than just hiring a developer to build a feature natively.
What's fascinating here is how the source material provides a mathematical threshold for exactly that scenario.
Oh, really? So it's not just a guessing game.
Not at all.
Yeah.
You don't guess when to switch from buying to building. You calculate it using a 12 to 18-month amortization horizon.
Okay, let's run a scenario so you can walk me through this. Let's say I want a really complex product bundling feature, and the best app out there costs $100 a month.
Okay, so that's $1,200 a year. If you get a quote from a developer who says, hey, I can build that exact bundling logic natively into your theme for a one-time fee of $1,000, well, the math makes the decision for you.
Because I hit my return on investment in less than a year.
Exactly. You build it. But if the custom build costs $8,000, you're looking at nearly 7 years to break even. So you keep renting the app.
Wow. That removes so much of the emotional guesswork.
It really does. And there is one other major trigger for abandoning the App Store and going custom, which is strict security and compliance.
Oh, like data privacy stuff.
Yeah. If you operate in a heavily regulated industry like, say, pharmaceuticals or certain financial services, your data privacy requirements might legally prohibit third-party applications from accessing your customer database.
Oh, wow. So you can't even use the apps if you wanted to.
Right. In that scenario, the 80/20 rule just goes out the window. You have no choice but to build a private custom solution where you control the data pipeline end to end.
Okay, so if I do the math, or, I check my legal requirements and realize I am finally ready to build, what are my actual options? Because building custom isn't just one monolithic thing, right?
Not at all.
The text breaks this down into a spectrum of 5 distinct tiers of customization, ranging from quick cosmetic tweaks to massive digital engineering projects.
Yeah, and the jump in complexity and price between level 1 and level 5 is staggering. So level 1 is what most people think of when they say customization. These are theme modifications.
Like changing colors and stuff.
Exactly. A developer is just tweaking your CSS, which is a styling language that controls colors, fonts, spacing, or making minor layout changes. The text estimates this costs between $500 and $3,000, taking maybe 1 to 2 weeks.
That makes sense. It's like a fresh coat of paint. But what happens when I need new functionality, not just new colors?
That moves us to level 2, which is custom sections and templates. This utilizes Shopify's online store 2.0 architecture to build reusable blocks.
Okay, like what?
Think of a highly specific, interactive comparison table for your products. This tier runs roughly $1,000 to $5,000 and takes 2 to 4 weeks.
Got it. And then level 3 is where we leave the cosmetic stuff behind entirely, right? This is private app development.
Yeah. Here we're talking about custom business logic. Maybe you need automated pricing rules for a B2B portal that a public app just can't handle.
Right.
And because it requires mid to senior back-end developers, the price jumps to $3,000 to $20,000, taking 4 to 12 weeks.
Wow. Then we get into the heavy plumbing. Level 4 is API integration.
Yeah, this is serious stuff.
This is connecting your storefront to massive enterprise resource planning systems like NetSuite or CRMs like Salesforce. And the text puts this at $2,000 to $10,000 and 2 to 6 weeks.
It is incredibly critical work. Think about it. If a CSS tweak fails, a button looks a little misaligned. If an API integration breaks, orders literally stop routing to your warehouse.
Yeah.
The business freezes.
Yeah, that's terrifying. Which brings us to the top of the mountain, level 5. Headless or hydrogen builds. Fully custom front ends promising maximum performance control.
The big one.
And the cost. The text lists it at $15,000 to $60,000 or more, taking 10 to 20 plus weeks.
It's a huge investment.
Wait, here's where it gets really interesting. $60,000 just for the front end of a storefront. If the Shopify backend is still handling all the heavy lifting of inventory and payments, what is a business owner actually paying for that justifies a median tech salary?
It's a great question. To understand that sticker shock, we have to look at the invisible factors that drive global development costs. First, there's geography.
Okay.
The text explicitly notes that developers based in the US or the UK generally charge 2 to 3 times more than equally skilled developers in regions like Eastern Europe or South Asia.
Wow, just based on location.
Yeah. If you want a local, native-speaking senior team managing a headless build during your exact business hours, you are paying a massive premium for that alignment.
Labor markets dictate the baseline. I get that.
Yeah.
And I imagine urgency plays a role too, right?
Yeah.
The classic fast, cheap, good pick two dilemma.
Exactly. If you need a complex build in 10 weeks instead of 20, agencies apply a 25 to 50% rush premium. You're paying for them to sideline other clients and work weekends.
Ouch.
But the biggest hidden factor, the one that truly makes a $60,000 build terrifying, is the ongoing maintenance.
Wait, what needs maintaining? Once the code is written, shouldn't it just work?
I mean, if the internet never changed, sure, yes.
Oh, right.
But the source highlights that you need to factor in 15 to 20% of your initial build cost annually just to keep the lights on.
You can't.
Nope. A headless build is a living organism. When Apple updates Safari, your custom code might break. When a third-party payment gateway updates their security protocols, your API connections fail. A custom React front end is full of software libraries that constantly discover new security vulnerabilities that require manual patching.
So you're paying a senior developer a retainer just to manage that decay.
Exactly.
So capitalizing on that reality check, we really need to isolate this buzzword, headless. Because if you read any e-commerce tech blog right now, headless is the biggest buzzword in the room.
Oh, it's everywhere.
They make it sound like if you aren't running a decoupled headless architecture, You are running your business on a fax machine.
It is wildly misunderstood. Let's just define the mechanics really quick. Traditional e-commerce architecture is monolithic. The back-end database that stores your product descriptions and the front-end theme that the customer actually sees and clicks on, they're fused together in one system.
They're an all-in-one package.
Right. Headless physically decouples them.
Right.
It severs the front end from the back end. You use a custom programming framework like React or Shopify's own framework called Hydrogen to build a totally independent front end.
Okay.
And then that front end talks to the Shopify back end through what's called a storefront API.
So it's essentially ripping the engine out of reliable Honda Civic and trying to custom wire it into a race car chassis.
Yeah.
Sure, you have more control, but if you don't have a team of elite mechanics, you're going to crash. Or actually, let me use a different one. Think of traditional Shopify like booking an all-inclusive resort. The food, your room, the pool, they are all bundled together, managed by one entity.
Yeah, it's easy, but you have to eat from their buffet.
Right. Headless is like deciding to sleep in a boutique hotel, but hiring a private chef for your meals and renting a private beach for your afternoons. It is the ultimate tailored experience, but you are now personally responsible for coordinating the logistics, the transportation, and the communication between all three of those separate entities.
That is the perfect way to visualize it. And that coordination requires a team of elite developers constantly monitoring the system. Which brings us to the harsh reality the text points out. Headless is not a performance silver bullet.
But wait, the entire marketing pitch for Headless is blazing fast, sub-second page speeds.
I know. But Headless gives you the control to achieve those speeds. It does not give you automatic speed. In fact, the source notes that a poorly built custom Hydrogen storefront can actually run significantly slower than a basic $50 traditional theme.
Wait, really? Slower?
Yes. If you write bloated React code or fail to optimize how the API requests data, you just spent $60,000 to actively sabotage your own conversion rate.
That is wild. You bought the chassis of a Formula One car, but if you don't know how to tune the engine, a stock minivan is going to beat you off the starting line.
Exactly. So the source outlines very strict criteria for who should actually be looking at this level of customization.
And who is that?
It only makes sense if you are generating over $1 million in annual revenue, if your data proves you are losing massive conversions by not having sub-second page loads, or if you are serving a complex web store, a native mobile app, and in-store digital kiosks, all pulling from the exact same back-end inventory database.
Okay, so for the vast majority of you listening, if your store is under that $1 million mark, a headless build is a 3 to 5 times cost multiplier for zero return on investment.
It is absolute financial overkill, which means we need to look at the technology powering the 95% of stores that don't go headless.
Right, the actual standard development stack keeping the e-commerce world spinning. So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Well, the text points out that the core of all this is a template language called Liquid. If you are looking at a Shopify store right now and it isn't headless, you're looking at Liquid.
Yeah, Liquid is the connective tissue. It is the language that tells the server, hey, go look in the database, find the price for this specific pair of shoes, and display it right here on the screen.
But how Liquid is organized has changed dramatically, hasn't it?
It has. The text stresses that Online Store 2.0, or OS 2.0, has been the standard architecture since 2021.
And OS 2.0 uses something called JSON templates. Why does a business owner need to care about JSON versus the old pre-2021 architecture?
Because building on pre-2021 architecture today is a massive technical debt trap. Before OS 2.0, if you wanted, say, a specific promotional video player on a product page, a developer had to hard-code it into the master product template.
Meaning that video player showed up on every single product page across your entire store.
Exactly. JSON templates change that. They act like modular Lego base plates. They allow you to snap that video player onto one specific product page without altering the rest of the store, and you can do it without touching the code yourself.
Okay, that is a massive leap in usability for the store owner.
It really is.
And for the brands pushing the very limits of this standard stack, we have the Shopify Plus exclusives. These are features like native B2B wholesale catalogs, or the ability to deeply customize the code on the actual checkout page itself.
But and this is a big but, that level of access comes with a massive toll booth. You can only utilize those features if you're on a Shopify Plus Enterprise plan, which the text notes costs $2,300 a month.
Wow.
So if you ask a developer to customize your checkout, you aren't just paying their hourly rate, you are committing to a $27,000 annual software bill just for the privilege of making that change.
Which is why understanding this stack liquid, JSON OS 2.0, is your shield. It's the only way to know if a developer you're interviewing is using modern, safe tools or outdated hacks that will break your store.
Absolutely.
Which leads perfectly into a concept the source highlights called theme app extensions. How do these protect the merchant?
Well, in the early days of Shopify, if you installed an app, say a customer reviews widget, that app would inject its proprietary code directly into your pristine theme files.
Oh.
If you later decided you didn't like the app and uninstalled it, the junk code stayed behind, permanently cluttering your files and slowing down your site.
So it's basically a digital parasite.
Exactly. Theme app extensions stop that. They create a secure sandbox. The app embeds directly into the theme cleanly, but it isn't allowed to permanently alter your core code.
Oh, nice.
If you delete the app, every trace of it disappears cleanly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Shopify is actively trying to protect non-technical merchants from developers who write messy, conflicting code.
Okay, so armed with the knowledge of what these tools are and the astronomical costs of getting them wrong, we face the final hurdle.
Execution.
Yes. How do you actually manage a custom development project without the whole thing catching fire? Because we all know someone who hired a developer, spent 10 grand, and received a broken website 6 months past the deadline.
Oh, yeah. And the text is incredibly clear on this. The number one reason custom software projects go over budget and fail is not bad code. It's poor scoping.
Scoping is the blueprint.
Exactly. The source offers a compelling statistic. Spending 20% of your project timeline purely on planning and scoping saves 40% in rework budget later.
Measure twice, cut once, applied to digital architecture. I love it. The text actually lays out 5 strict scoping steps to prevent disaster. First, you define the business objectives. Why are we doing this? Second, document the requirements. You have to ruthlessly separate the absolute must-haves from the nice-to-haves.
Right, because nice-to-haves will kill your budget.
Exactly. Third, and this is where most projects fail, set acceptance criteria.
Yeah, and acceptance criteria cannot be subjective. You do not tell a developer, make the product page load fast.
Because fast is relative.
Right. Fast to a developer on a gigabit fiber connection in an office is very different from fast to a customer on a weak cellular signal. Acceptance criteria must be binary, testable conditions. The text gives a great example. The page must load in under 2 seconds on a mobile 3G connection.
It either does or it doesn't. There's no argument. That is such a powerful tool for holding an agency accountable.
It really is.
Step 4 is setting milestones. The standard advice is never pay 100% upfront. Use a 30-40-30 payment split tied directly to those testable deliverables. And step 5 is planning the testing and staging environments.
Which ties into another massive money-saving tip from the text, adopting a Figma-first mentality.
Right. Figma is that collaborative digital design tool.
Yeah. And the text points out that iterating a design change in a Figma wireframe, essentially a digital sketch of the website, is 10 times cheaper than trying to rewrite the code after it has been built.
It goes back to the building analogy. Moving a line on a blueprint takes 5 seconds. Asking the construction crew to move a load-bearing wall after the drywall is up is going to cost you a fortune.
Exactly. So as you take these blueprints and start interviewing developers, the source provides a clear list of green flags and red flags. A massive green flag is a developer who uses Git for version control.
Let's hover on Git for a second. What exactly is that?
Git is essentially a time machine for your code. If a developer pushes an update and it accidentally breaks your shopping cart, Git allows them to instantly roll the entire website back to the exact version from an hour ago when everything worked perfectly.
Oh, wow. That's a lifesaver.
Yeah, a developer using Git is a professional who respects the integrity of your live revenue stream.
And the red flags?
Yeah, there are a few. If an agency asks for your actual administrator login credentials, instead of requesting secure, limited collaborator access through the Shopify partner portal, run.
Definitely run.
If they start editing your live theme files directly instead of working in a hidden staging environment, run.
Yeah, that makes sense. But there was one detail in the vetting section that genuinely stopped me in my tracks.
The IP clause.
Yes. Intellectual property. The text states that by default, A developer might retain the intellectual property rights to the custom code they write for your business, unless your contract contains a specific IP assignment clause stating you own the code upon final payment. Wait, I could pay someone $20,000 to build an app and I might not even own the code at the end of it.
I know, it sounds crazy. This raises an important question, and it's a massive blind spot for business owners. Under standard copyright law, the creator of the work owns the work unless they explicitly sign it over.
Unbelievable.
You cannot treat web development like hiring a plumber to fix a pipe. It is a strict legal transfer of digital assets. If you do not have that IP clause and you have a falling out with that agency, you might not legally be allowed to have a new developer take over that code base.
Yeah.
You could be legally forced to abandon a $20,000 investment and rebuild from scratch.
That is terrifying.
Mhm.
But it perfectly illustrates why treating custom development as a strict legal and architectural project is absolutely mandatory.
Ultimately, the best custom development is entirely invisible to the end customer. They don't care if your site runs on Liquid, JSON, or a $60,000 headless hydrogen build.
Right, they just want to buy their stuff.
Exactly. They just want the site to load instantly, be intuitive to navigate, and let them hand over their credit card without friction. Your job as a business owner is to achieve that seamless experience using the simplest, most legally sound technology possible.
We have covered incredible ground today. We journeyed across the entire spectrum of customization, from a $500 cosmetic tweak to the massive engineering required for headless architecture. We decoded the reality of headless versus liquid, explored the modern tech stack, and hopefully armed you with the scoping blueprints to protect your budget and your intellectual property. Remember, complexity should only scale when the data justifies it.
It's about building smart, not just building big.
Absolutely. Before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to unravel on your own. The source casually notes a massive statistic. 79% of all Shopify traffic is mobile. Nearly 4 out of 5 customers are shopping on a phone.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yet the source states that one of the most common development mistakes is still designing websites desktop first and simply trying to make it responsive later.
It is a staggering disconnect between how things are built and how they're actually used.
It really is. So here is something to think about as you navigate the web today. In a world where 4 out of 5 of your customers are interacting with your brand in the palm of their hand, why does our entire technological development mindset still default to a 15-inch monitor? What other massive blind spots exist in how we build the digital world simply because the people writing the code are sitting at a desk? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the architecture of the digital world around you, and we will catch you next time.